Thank you. Thank you, Francesca. Is there a second? Thank you, Susan. All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. Next is the YMCA, Margaret Riley. Get their day update. Wherever you like.
Okay. All right, thank you. I'm Margaret Riley. I'm the executive director of the YMCA. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening and speak to you about our partnerships with the town. I want to start my presentation with a year, 1959. That is the year that the YMCA and town first partnered together to offer camp at Kiwanis Park. And it has been a long-standing, valued, retaining tradition, and we are very proud of its history and very proud to continue it. Interestingly, the YMCA has interviewed a new VP of finance, and during his interview, he said that he was a Wi-Fi camper. It didn't hurt the interview process. But thinking back on that, you realize that there are probably well over 10,000 children who have had some experience at Kiwanis Park as a Wi-Fi camper, as a counselor, as a camper, as a CIT or an LIT. We've really touched a lot of lives, and we're very proud of that. We run our camp four sessions rather, for 2 weeks each session. We start on June 26th and we run through around August 18th. Our hours are 9 to 4, but parents, most especially working parents, have the option to extend their day so that camp can start as early as 8 o'clock and campers can be picked up as late as 5:30. We have about 270 campers per summer, and campers range in ages from 6 to 15. We set up our campers into 3 different sort of divisions. The first are our traditional campers. Those are our youngest campers, grades 1 to 6. Their days are filled with games and camp sports, creative activities, archery, swimming, river walks, canoeing, paddle boarding. There's a camp store, camp songs, camp cheers. There's even camp math. The next group are our leaders in training. These are students in 7th and 8th grade. This experience mixes a camp experience with a leadership training experience. So these campers have a little more independence in their day. They're tasked with presenting a program to our 3rd and 4th grade campers, and each one of them completes a Red Cross babysitting certification class, so that they then have that Red Cross certification to go and care for their children. It teaches basic CPR skills and cooking assistance, kind of manure. That group also does team building activities such as escape rooms and courses and things like that. That group also has a responsibility for community service. And in the last few years, that community service has been performed right at Kiwanis Park. They pull weeds, they clean out the park, they pick up trash, and they clean around that. Why the Kiwanis Park sign that's in place for camp area.
We can't hear you.
Go ahead.
Okay. And then our last group are our CITs, or our counselors in training. Those are ages 14 to 15, and they're really bridging the gap between camper and leader. That group is responsible for organizing and delivering a camp-wide activity. They also engage in community service, and they enjoy special events such as pizza parties and do community service for specific organizations. So in addition to providing an experience for campers, the Camp Wi-Fi also employs many youth throughout our town. We employ typically 45 to 50 counselors each year. The vast majority of those counselors or people are children who have come through the camp itself and then become counselors at the camp. They're usually teenagers, and for many, it's their first job experience. We also employ 12 counselors to work with youth with special needs. Those are our special cares counselors. We employ specialists who deliver special activities, and they're typically college students who come and they have to deliver an idea for a lesson plan, and then they work with the campers for special projects. And we also employ approximately 5 school aides every year to help us to address campers with special needs. There are some unique characteristics for Camp Wi-Fi that I'd like to discuss with you just briefly. The first is financial assistance. because the Y is a charitable organization. We offer financial assistance to campers every year. This past year, we offered over $50,000 in financial assistance to campers who could not afford to be there otherwise. We benefited over 43 campers. And that was through the generosity of Y donors. We also have a very strong level of special needs programming at our camp. We have an on-site full-time special needs director who is there every day with the campers. She works very closely with parents and schools to understand what needs particular campers might have. We typically are able to provide a one-on-one ratio or 1-to-2 ratio for assistance for campers with special needs, and we do not charge extra for that service. The Y Kai camp also provides swim lessons. So our kids are not just having fun in the pond, but they're learning to swim. So at the beginning of the summer, each camper is evaluated to see what their swim ability is. And then based on ability, they're assigned swim lessons, and they've participated in swim lessons throughout their sessions. Finally, no, not finally, two more things. The camp Wi-Fi is licensed by the state of Connecticut. And this means that we have to meet certain standards and operate in a way that's a little different than a non-licensed camp. We have an on-site nurse. We have strict counselor to camper ratios. Our counselors have to go through mandatory training and have background checks. Our counselors have to have physical exams done before they can start camp. And our camp is inspected by the state for safety purposes. And finally, the thing that's special about Camp Wi-Fi is that it's run by a YMCA. It's an organization, it's a charitable organization with a mission for inclusiveness. And our goal is to enrich lives. We value honesty, respect, caring, and responsibility. We require those values in our staff, and we try to build them in our campus. So that's what I have for Camp Wi-Fi. Oh, let me give you a little bit of detail about the business relationship. So we are now in the second year of a 2-year lease. We use approximately 1/3 of Kiwanis Park. So we use the back area, if you will. We do not use the main pavilion when you first drive into the park. We don't use the playground structure, and we don't use that front part of the beach. There is a roped off section of the beach that we use, and we use a pavilion that's toward the back of the building and the sand area in the back. We have our own one structure that we built out there. It's really a storage structure. In the front of it, we do our camp store, and we store our kayaks and things in it. And every year we do some work around the camp to help make repairs, to do some maintenance work. We've built some ramps up to the buildings, and tried to paint. We painted some buildings, all of course with the town's approval and knowledge, but to do our best to help improve that camp as years go by. I think that's it for Camp Wi-Fi. Do you have any questions about the camp that I can answer?
Any questions?
Sure, I'll ask one. What improvements have you got coming this year?
I'm not sure. I know John and Davey Sedella, who runs our camp, usually do a walkthrough, and I think you guys are doing that pretty soon, right?
Next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and that usually is when we evaluate what needs to be done for the coming year, and tell John what we'd be happy to do on behalf of the Y. Okay.
So the improvements to the paths that are there in Kiwanis, that's not your group,
It's done by the town.
yes,
Yeah, the trails are maintained by the town.
those are great, by the way, those improvements.
Okay, and I have two other brief things that I wanted
Sure.
to mention to you. Last summer, the YMCA provided some free fitness classes to the community at Kiwanis Park. Some yoga classes and Tai Chi classes. We did that in a partnership with the library. Offered them sort of under some trees in a shaded area, had Y instructors go over to the park and meet residents there. And it was open and free to everyone. You didn't have to be a YMCA member to participate in that. And we were proud of that ability to do that, and would love to have more opportunity to lead fitness classes at camp spaces or park spaces this year. And the final thing I wanted to talk to you about is something new and exciting that we'll be doing in an additional new partnership with the town. And that is that this summer, the YMCA will be providing swim lessons at the Steve Benko Pool. And we are so excited to be able to do this new service for the.
Well, I got nothing to report.
You stole your thunder. So we provide swim lessons to over 500 people every year. So you found a real expert in the YMCA. We're willing, ready, and able to deliver great swim lessons to the town. When John and Zach and I spoke about it, we said, you know, the YMCA is already teaching everybody in New Canaan how to swim. It's just in the summer that we haven't had the opportunity to do it outside at the town pool. So we're really happy to be able to offer that this year. We're going to bring our Y instructors, Y lifeguards, Y equipment. We'll be doing 30-minute lessons. There'll be week-long sessions, parent-child, preschool, school age, all different levels, and following the Y curriculum that we use all year long. So I think it's really going to be a terrific program. Very excited and really happy to have the opportunity.
It's great.
Well, first of all, it was really impressive in the campus. I said two things about the camp, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I wanted to give John House something to report on. And sometimes at the camp, there's a congestion problem when people are picking up. And John, could you just talk about what you're going to be doing about
We're
that?
gonna try something new. A lot of times when people come to drop off kids, they don't realize that they're blocking somebody in. So we're gonna paint some lines in the parking lot that's in the dirt. So they're temporary lines, but then when people have a place to go park, they'll follow the lines. And they won't realize that they just blocked in the car in front. They just think they're pulling behind us. So I think it will help a lot.
That's good. And also, second thing is, on a less positive note, you know, I know that in recent months, there's been a couple of break-ins in Y property at the camp, at the Y shed
Yes.
and the apartment. There's been two in recent months, and before that, there's been break-ins. You know, from what Davey told me, you know, nothing's been stolen. Locks have been broken on the windows and the doors. Nothing's been stolen, but the stuff that's in the shed and in the apartment have been strewn about the grounds. Some of the stuff has been thrown into the pond. I know that, you know, I think Davey is, you know, not always, but you know, has reported to, you know, to the police that there's these break-ins.
Yes, yeah. So I thought at one point we were installing a ringing doorbell there, so we might get some video. So I don't know if we ever accomplished that, but that was a plan. You know, that's right after the fact, unfortunately. Ideally, we would stop it before it happens, right? But yeah, thankfully, a little bit of damage to property, but nothing.
It sounds like kids.
Hanging out.
Can't be handled.
Yeah.
Not my
Yeah.
kids. You know, I was thinking mine are out of town.
Has the town put, placed cameras at Kiwanis? We have, no, okay. I know that there was some
They're looking at
looking at,
all the properties.
right, exactly, because I know Exchange Club does put cameras on during our Christmas tree sale. For loss prevention,
Mhm.
and if we, when we contacted the town to see if they want us to leave the cameras, they said, no, we're gonna take charge of that.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, they're looking at all town property.
right,
And that's. I'm not even aware of where they are. Everything they can, it stays quiet. It goes through a
Larger
executive session and things like that for approval. So,
it's a larger project. Okay,
yes.
gotcha. All right. Any other questions for Margaret? Well, we
Sounds great.
yeah, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
the terrific
Great
work that
job.
your organization is doing for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're so pleased with the partnership. Thank you.
Are you expecting enrollment to be strong this year?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we have some sessions that are already closed out. So yeah, we expect to fill them all.
Terrific. Thank you.
I do have one question about the pool where you're doing the lessons. Is that going to be, making the pool really crowded at certain
No.
hours or?
What's happened is the guy that was doing our swim lessons is retired. So it came in at a perfect opportunity to do this.
Okay,
So
taking over for the other.
we're switching how we're doing lessons. So I
Okay.
think it's a good opportunity. They're happy with it. So
All right, great.
Okay,
Thank
super.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions? Without further ado, we will move on to Mr. Shipper and update on the great work they're doing in Bristow.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner, for inviting me to give you an update. Also good to see John, Todd, and Ryan here as well, who support our efforts there. I tried to send a letter out at year end to give everyone an update as to what are some of the activities and things we plan to do. And what I'd like to do, maybe with John's help, is just share with you a very short video.
you're a co-host, so since you're logged in, you can
So if
Share
I hit,
yours. Share your screen.
share my screen, now where did that go? Let's see. Here I am. Start video is what I wanted, is my screen shared?
No,
Not yet.
thanks, Mike.
Thank you for increasing the light scene there. I thought I was changing the sound, but I was giving the screen instead. So I need to find, if you've given me a share, it doesn't look like I've got a share at the bottom unless it's here a little bit more. Here it is, share screen online. Let me know when that pops up, if it does. I'm not getting it.
Did you scroll over to Chris Shipper up
No,
top there?
No, he's the co-host now, so he should be able to share his screen.
Well, I've gone backwards here. I sent it to you, George, but I don't think you have it up on your system. You're not online. So.
No.
Oh, I just went to post attendee, so let's do this. I yield my time to my esteemed colleagues from the Waveney Park Conservancy. And once they've completed their talk, I will then give Bristow video. I have technical assistance here from Michael Diney.
No problem. Just following the agenda, Mr. Smith is next with the disc golf update, then we'll go on to the Waveney.
Hi, my name is Tim Smith. I recently walked with Tim on the course to kind of get him up to speed. Things that are happening, John Howe and Todd have helped out with cleanup. We're gonna start working on the tees there, upgrading them. They're natural dirt now, but I think we're gonna go to more of a millings kind of similar to what you see in the paths around town. Around the park. So that's kind of the short range. Our goal is to get the tees a little safer, basically. And one of our other goals is to establish a red tee or a recreational tee so that it's a little bit more friendly to newcomers to the sport. I've also talked to John and Ryan about maybe coming up with some sort of program where we can introduce people to the sport. A long time ago, when I first established the course, we did kind of a disc golf day where we set up a temporary course on the grass and people came out. It was actually well attended both times. I'd say close to 50 people both times. And just to introduce people to the sport. Other than that, we continue to clean up the course. It's evolving. We, tweak the holes. There's going to be a tournament on April 22nd. That's a PDGA professional disc golf tournament. And so we're excited about that. We've had two in the past, back in 2009 and 2010. So this is kind of a, reintroducing the course. The course went through kind of a dormant period, I'd say, where, and it's amazing how fast the invasive plants will take over the forest, basically. And so I'd say about 5 years ago, I started cleaning it back up with some help of volunteers, and now the course is in great shape. It's actually, we track through UDisc is an app that people can keep score on. We track how many people play. It represents about, I'd say 30 to 50% of the people that actually play the course, but the amount of people that are playing is increased dramatically. So in a good way. So,
Right.
And I think COVID was the thing that just, first off, disc golf took off during COVID because it was something you could do outside. You were outside, you weren't in a room or anything like that. I don't know what else I can tell you. It's probably a love of labor for me, for sure. It was established in 2007, the course. I don't know if there's any other things I can tell you. Tim, I don't know.
For those who are interested about the April 22nd tournament, is there a place?
Yes, you can go to Disc Golf Scene and there is a website that Chase Ashley, who lives in town, set up. It's called Friends of Waveney, or you can go Waveney Disc Golf, and it'll bring it up. He did an awesome job. there's pictures of every hole, he update, and he's way into it. He updates it all the time, he announces stuff, like whenever we do something different in the course, we put flags up on the baskets, so the baskets are more visible. Yeah.
Is there a flyer at the entrance that says,
Not
This
right now, I think the disc golf community kind of relies on disc golf scene, which is
word of mouth?
which announces tournaments and everything like that, but we can do that, that's not. a problem.
I think that's a smart idea.
Yeah, sure, we can, that's not a problem at all.
You said discgolfscene.com.
This, if you could just type in disc golf scene, yeah, it shows every disc golf tournament you ever want to know about. But you can go to disc golf tournaments in Connecticut, and it's called Waveney Warm Up is listed there. That's what the name of the tournament is this year. Yeah, so
And how many people are you
the
expecting?
maximum it can be 72. So,
So
and
they have to
Oh, is it
sign up
regular
and
conference?
register ahead.
Yep.
And then you only have that.
yeah,
many.
and we have also the whole sponsors, the money that there is going to be some money set aside for the course. So it will actually help the course too. So
Sounds great.
has,
Thanks.
has anyone been out there yet?
I have,
No,
yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
And
that's
it
good.
actually, the course, there's dog walkers out there now
Yeah.
and people ride bikes. No one knows it's out there, but it's a nice little piece of Waverly Park. So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a really scenic stretch of town property. And
Yeah.
the distances of these disc golf holes, they're no walk in the park, right? I mean,
Right.
No, I mean, it's probably
they're pretty big, they're pretty long.
it's probably considered a medium length course. I mean, compared to what the pros do. I don't know if you've ever seen disc golf pros. They can throw over 500 feet. Yeah,
Sure.
it's amazing. So,
Wow, great.
yeah,
Wow.
so
Yeah.
I'm lucky if I get 3.
Good luck, you, Jim.
But does anyone have any questions?
Questions for
I'd
Tim?
like your email.
Mine?
Yeah.
Sure, it's SNOWDISC@optonline.net.
Thank you.
The two things I like to do.
Any other questions for Tim? Okay. Well, again, thank you very much for the
You're welcome.
great value added service you provide to the town.
Yeah, and I'm happy that the town's now involved. It's great.
Okay.
Before it was all volunteer, we raised all the money for the baskets and it's been, but now that they're involved, it's awesome. So,
Yeah, fantastic.
In the present year's budget, we have 10,000 for rebuilding tees and doing other work out there, and we've requested another 10,000 for next year's budget.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
when that goes through,
Wow. Okay, Chris, you're good?
We're good.
All right.
Our technical advisor here has got me on, so I'm gonna hit share screen. And I don't know if that's showing. Allow Zoom to share your screen. And that should be it. Okay, I think I should be able to open now. There we go. Share.
There you go.
All right, about 106 on the screen. Let's get this one larger. Just gonna,
Thank you, Mike.
that's still showing those. Somewhere else. That's not on this screen. Zoom would like to record this, so that's coming up on your side. That must be off the central here. Just press play. I'll hit play when it's ready. Yeah. The screen sharing is paused.
say it's coming from, then it's coming from his screen. You're viewing Christopher's screen.
It's not share. Come back up, it's share screen again.
Oh, I see. This is the one I want to share. Here we go.
There we go.
All right, so we're just gonna start with this very, quick, short video. When I say short, pay attention.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with, that's a woodcock. If you've never seen one before. That's the 103rd species now seen in Bristow Park in the last 18 months. That was the 102nd. It's a black vulture.
Wow.
Now, they're not coming for the bird seed. That's a lot of the smaller prey birds. But the park is now in bloom. Those are that's winter wolfsbane. That's a cornelian cherry tree, very rare. This is the new pavilion that's gone up by the crossing. It's contributed by the Friends of Bristow. That's the new bird blind that's been picked into the back wetlands area. That's our marvelous carpenter. There's a little lending library now for people interested in birds. The parks team has been very helpful in keeping the park clear, and people love it. That's my quick story. And I'm happy to share any thoughts or answer any questions you have. We are in the budget for the final year of the Centennial Rehabilitation Plan. If you have your diaries open, September 8th, 2024 will be the 100th anniversary of the bird sanctuary, which is the third oldest in the nation.
Wow.
And it's definitely worth celebrating. A lot of hard work has gone in so far. The final year of work is in the budget. I think John has put that through, and Tiger. We have a final year spend, some more hardscape work and fencing work, but now we're going to move into some of the understory planting and clearing out invasives. We've worked hard to get the fence line secure, because if you plant and the deer come in, you're going backwards in your process. Interesting for you to note is that Bristow Park has one of the oldest colonial artifacts in New Canaan. And what it is the perambulation wall. Some of you may not know, before New Canaan existed, there was Stamford, run by one group out of New Haven, and Norwalk, run out of a group out of Hartford. And they were not always friendly. And so one of the issues was they had commons up above the towns of Stamford and Norwalk, where they could run their pigs or harvest wood or whatever. And there were disputes. The Stamford people said the Norwalk people are taking our wood or letting their cattle run, and vice versa. And they got an edict from England saying, mark your metes and bounds and put up a perambulation wall. So in 1685, wow, and 1686, they marked the lines and began building the perambulation wall, so that you knew when the collector came to you and he's from Stamford, and he said, you owe us money, you try to say, no, I'm from Norwalk. But he said, no, you're on this side of the perambulation wall. So there's an artifact of that in the park, which will be work with the Friends of Bristol will support rebuilding a segment. But it exists also in Waveney, and it exists up along West Road. So that's another kind of a unique fun finding. The park as well, visitors are happy. Problems are few, probably the same issues that any park would have. There was a touch of graffiti at one point. Somebody decided that, oh, look at all this nice wood and fencing and whatever, I'll tag it. And then we did run into an issue during the school break of dirt bikes running off trail and then running on the trails, which are this beautiful gravel laid out. And there's nothing more fun than going about 25 miles an hour and then skidding as hard as you can and sending things out. So we put up a little sign or two saying no dirt bikes off main trail to solve it. But it's been a fun project. There's still a year and a half to go. And we're in pretty good shape. And we're also, one other aspect and probably relevant in thinking is that Bristow Park is going to look for a long-term public-private partner to be a kind of an advocate. It used to be overseen by the Bird Protective Society, which was the New Canaan Audubon Society. And it was also the Garden Club's major focus for Clarical, and the Garden Club went to
Waveney and then Irwin, they said, well, we're no longer here, and then the Audubon demise, but the assets transferred over to the land trust. So the land trust is now evaluating, could we be a partner with regards to Bristol Park? And that would give it a group that could be educational, tell stories, lead tours, take care of the birdhouses and the bird feeding stations. You know, they've got a big volunteer network. And then the Friends of Bristow, which was done as an ad hoc group, would be able to demise and transfer its assets or whatever resources or endowment it has collected to the land trust for the next 100 years. Because the big challenge always is when you do a restoration project is to maintain it. And Bristow has had restoration, disappearance. We're going to try to push it forward. We'll see. It's worth the effort. So I thank you all for your support and visitation, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. How, with the land trust, how close are you guys to an agreement? Is it this close, this close?
So the land trust has asked and looked at agreements that currently exist between the Waveney Park Conservancy and the town. And looked at agreements that the Garden Club has with regards to Irwin Park. And they're looking at those two, trying to say, all right, how would it work? The land trust does have an important asset. It has 1.2 acres adjoining Bristol Park.
Right.
Bring into it, which is a nice, you know, almost an 8% increase in the amount of coverage. I would say, I think the objective for them was something like by September, if they could hammer out an agreement, or we could get somewhere so that they're in position for the next 100 years. They'll be around forever is our assumption.
Right.
And, you know, so it's a good, it's a good potential partnership.
Great. I like the long term. I'm sorry. I like the long term approach you guys are taking to this.
Yeah, I think it works, and because it's passive recreation park almost entirely, it is a passive recreation park with a birding element to it and kind of native plant management and bird sanctuary, what have you, that kind of fits with their species. And it happens that several of their board members are right there in town, live within walking distance of it. So there's a kind of a good fit.
Right.
I would also say that that new pavilion that's gone up, that's is entirely supported by the Friends of Bristol, you know, from the base up. And that included the Exchange Club. It included the Anderson Family Foundation and two donors, Arthur Berry and Marty McLaughlin. So we're very fortunate to have support of community groups, foundations, and individuals.
Gotcha.
When will the roof of the pavilion be finished? I've got my watch on now. I would say by tomorrow afternoon. They completed half of it today. Yeah, and knocked the ice and snow off to do so, and then they'll complete the other half. So it's gonna be nice. It's a cedar shingle roof. So it'll age in really nicely. It's great. Beautiful. Great what you've done. Halfway house.
Could you comment on what I believe to be new access to Bristol?
Yes.
It's off 106, is that right? Or-
That's right. Interestingly enough, today, the plans were just shared, which continues the sidewalk from Park Street and brings it down Old Stamford Road. So you can now come all the way down on a sidewalk to the park. And it includes, you know, one of the neighbors had extended their fence about 2 yards into the public domain, so move that fence back, then the sidewalk comes in. But in addition to that, Maria Conlon and Tiger Man have also established a 4-car pull-off. So that for seniors, and ideally it was designed so that a school bus could come to the park and that we could take children on tours of the woodlands, and then the pavilion would become like a small instruction center, and then there'd be a native tour, natural, you know, plant tour or a bird tour, if possible. So that's still awaiting Connecticut DOT approval, which is a waiting game, but it looks like all the arguments, all the drawings, all the engineering is in place. So the goal always was to have that in place by the centennial, by 2024, September 2024. But our hope is maybe by this year, we'll see it come in.
Chris, this is a very speculative question. Do you have any concern that, the park is a beautiful, fragile park? Do you have any concern that the easier access will maybe allow certain people to come into the park who may not treat it with such great respect?
So I think like you or anyone who deals with the public, you're always struggling with serving the 99.9% of the people who enjoy and behave themselves and do the right things and appreciate what we have. I start from the premise that people who go into parks are good natured, or at least I hope they would be. But I also struggle with the fact that the 1/10 of 1%, the people who will take something attractive and somehow create a nuisance out of it, as John Howe might describe it. I feel like you just have to overcome that. You just have to say, that's not, that's not what we want to do, and try to figure out how to push back on it. And I'm hesitant to do it with a lot of signage and don't, welcome, but don't do this, and this. I figure that the best way to try to control that is by more visitation, not less. More eyes walking on, more people sitting on benches watching what's happening as opposed to not. Sorry. But I don't know. We always take the risk when we do nice things that is subject to vandalism or, things like that. So yes, occasionally I find some beer cans in the back corner. I check with Keith if his kids are in town or not. But I kind of feel like I always want to say, welcome, please enjoy your walk. But I'm also aware that you're just gonna have to deal with that, every once in a while, you gotta pick up garbage. Every once in a while, somebody leaves a dog bag on the side, you just deal with it, pick it up and move it. It's easier than getting upset and trying to blame the 99.9 other people for what one moron does.
Right.
Makes sense. That's not a very public term, but sorry.
I'm sorry.
And with that, with all the work that's been done in the park, we have put money in the parks maintenance operational budget.
Okay.
Just for Bristol.
Gotcha.
So things like if there is vandalism and things like that, we can keep it up.
Which is very helpful.
Is the fence repaired all the way around, or is that something?
This final year is going to try to address the fence line up by the kids' playground in that area. That few trees down. It's very high thicket, so it's not easy for animals to get in and out, but deer are clever. And then there's a little bit of there's like a W shape of fencing that we're gonna walk through and do it, but we've now completed the whole half the eastern side, all of the southern side, the entire railroad side, and down to like the baseball backstop side. And then we have to work just down that line, but most of that's in pretty good shape, so it's more repair work.
That's huge.
And we're trying to string what used to be the barbed wire forks that would hang above. We're gonna just string straight wire, so it increases the height by another 1.5 feet. We're trying to get there, and then I do owe a debt of thanks to the commission, because you advocated for improved access from the concession stand in Mead Park to the gate of Bristol to make it a more welcoming. And those plans are now in place, and I think they're part of the funding goal for the coming fiscal year to redo that pathway to make it more senior, more stroller friendly, and just more visually attractive. So that would be another big enhancement, that both entrances now will bring people in, and it's a neighborhood park largely. And then there's the people coming in to visit, and then once a season kind of visitation.
Okay.
That is such great.
Well,
news.
thank you.
Fantastic.
I now yield the floor to my colleagues from the Wayne Park Conservancy.
Are there any other questions for Chris? Chris, thank you.
My pleasure.
Fantastic. So, Stephen and Charles, an exciting new project in front of us here.
We do, and I hope it's okay what we thought, George. By the way, I'm Stephen Beschenstein, for those of you who don't know me, and this is Charles Crookenden, who's our treasurer, as well as leading up the project that we hope to sort of talk in a little more detail about tonight. I thought that what I would do, since we haven't talk to you guys a while is give you a brief update on what we accomplished during 2022.
Sure.
And then also give you an update on what we hope to accomplish in 2023. And then I'm going to hand it off to Charles, and he's going to go into a little bit more detail on a concept that we'd like to get your thoughts and approval on. So John, are we ready? Oh, good. The technology is working. I usually like to start just because not everybody to this date still knows who the Waveney Park Conservancy is, just talking about who we are, what our mission is, and how we relate to the town. Just very succinctly, we were formed in 2015. We're part of a public-private partnership with the town that's guided by a memorandum of understanding. And our basic role is to act as an advocate for the parkland side of Waveney, which is the approximately 130 acres south of the road that bisects the park. So that's our purview. It's mostly the softscape up to the walls of the house, but the house itself is not under our purview. And so our role is to really act as an advocate for the parkland side, to identify capital projects within the park, to identify critical maintenance projects, and then to help fund and execute those projects in partnership with the town. So I always like to just make sure that we get that out there, because there's still a lot of people in town that don't understand exactly what our role is. So with that, John, why don't we go on to the next slide? 2022 was a busy year for the Conservancy. We focused very considerable attention on building organizational capacity, and we advanced a number of existing projects and tackled several meaningful new projects. Our year started with the hiring of Phoebe Knowles as our first executive director, and we also established a physical office in Waveney House. And Phoebe is charged with increasing our efficiency in administration, project management, fundraising, and communications and programming. And we were also gratified during the year to be awarded an ARPA grant of $250,000 from the town, and a budget allocation from the town, which we hope will become recurring, of $300,000, which our agreement with the town is that we typically match that dollar for dollar for each project that we undertake. On the project front, we continue to focus on maintaining and establishing both the Anderson Pond plantings and Jenny Meadow. And if you've been out to the meadow recently, you've probably seen we've installed deer fencing. We've repaired some plant material that was previously damaged by deer or by drought. And we've installed bird habitat and boxes. And we're actually just about to have a training session from the Audubon Society with volunteers as to how to maintain those bird boxes in the meadow. And we've also installed significant new educational signage. We completed this year the restoration of the forecourt of Waveney House, which is a project we started several years ago. And in prior years, we've installed foundational plantings and new hedges in front of the forecourt. And this year, we installed new climbing trellises on one of the walls. And we installed an alley of mature trees on both sides of the courtyard. And we also repointed and power washed a number of the walls within the courtyard. And it's looking great. And I think as time goes by and all those plantings become more established, it's only going to look more great. And John has been helping us make sure that the lawn looks very spiffy as well. So, and you guys have done a lot of that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
We also took responsibility for ensuring the various planters surrounding Waveney House are professionally planted on a 3-season rotation. That's a pretty small project, but actually it sort of has an outsized impact. A lot of people will walk around Waveney and they think, boy, this looks pretty nice around the terraces and whatnot. And one of the things that they may not realize sort of gives such a positive impression is the planters were all planted very, very well. And so that's something we work closely with John on, and it's looked very nice. I think you're aware that we removed the beloved, but unfortunately dying, a large white oak tree, iconic white oak tree at the bottom of the sledding hill, and we replaced it with another white oak. And we harvested the lumber from the original tree, which is currently in the process of, we've had it planked and it's being cured, and we hope to turn that into a number of products that can be sold potentially to support fundraising within Waveney Park, or potentially to be made into some products that could be used within the park. On the new project front, we reset all the flagstone walkways surrounding the garden area of Waveney. And if you haven't been down to see that project, it's pretty spectacular. It looks great. The craftsmanship from Mr. Portino, the mason, was amazing. And what we didn't realize when we undertook that is Mr. Portino said, "Would you like to even out the curves?" And we said, "Well, sure." And he said, "Well, you know, that's kind of a big job because those things go into the ground about 5 feet." So they were original, and the Laphams, when they put that stuff in, did not mess around. But they did a terrific job, and it really looks beautiful. And if you haven't seen that area, go take a look. And I want to also sort of call out Bill Brock, who is a major funder, and he's also one of the people that really said, "You guys need to do this because they're uneven. It's a tripping hazard. And you need to make that area more accessible." And one of the things we did in those flagstones is we actually made it ADA compliant, so you can bring a wheelchair down to that area much more easily than you could before. Finally, we closed out the year by planting over 10,000 native plants around the entrances of Waveney on both sides, and coming up the entranceway from South Avenue to Waveney House. And those should lend a beautiful new color palette sort of throughout different seasons once they become established. And I think you'll begin seeing a noticeable difference as soon as this spring. And I don't know if any of you actually saw the amount of plant material that was dropped off for that project, but it was literally staggering. So again, we're very excited about that project as well. I think it'll make a really significant visual impact on that portion of the park. So John, can we go to the next? This just provides some pictures of some of the projects we undertook. I won't belabor this, but in the middle, you can see one of the flagstone walkways. That's the walkway that used to be stepped and is now fully ADA compliant, but again, looks spectacular. The bottom picture gives you just a small sense of the amount of plant material that was used in the entrances and entranceway project. And I think the rest is fairly self-explanatory. There's one of the planters in the far right, as well as the maintenance of the pond plantings, which, if you were there last spring, looks spectacular. So that's some pictures to the words. All right, John. All right, 2023 plans. We have another ambitious set of plans to carry out in partnership with the town. We are currently in the process of restoring the Eberly fountain sculpture that is the centerpiece of the basin adjoining the parterre garden and the peony walks. And we've engaged a professional art curation and sculpture restoration service to clean the fountain, remove harmful surface deposits and oxidation, and install a protective coating on the statue, and also to fix the plumbing. So we're very hopeful that you'll not only be seeing water spouting out of the flower at the top of it, but also around the base. And a lot of people don't know this, there are about 4 frogs. Those are also parts of the fountain. So we're hoping that will work. And we expect that the fountain should be reinstalled in March or April. We plan to complete a project to beautify and rebuild the service area to the left of Waveney House. As you're looking at Waveney House, you're probably familiar with the loading docks, and a lot of equipment is often stored there. But quite frankly, it's an eyesore, and your eye kind of goes right to it when you're parked in that area. So we've developed, in unison with the town over the years, a plan to rebuild some of the walls and to put some terracing there and re-landscape that entire area. So it will still be accessible for use in loading and unloading, but it should be much more attractive and draw your eye to that area much less than it's drawn today. And that project should start almost any day now. And we're hopeful that it could actually be completed by May or June. And it should look spectacular. We've already worked with the town to repair the roof on the Walls Garden sitting area, and we're contributing half the cost of that. And the garden club's also contributing some private funding as well. But that looks very well, very good. We are jointly funding a new arbor plan for the park with the town. And once that plan is finished, we will assist in funding the installation of new specimen trees to implement the plan. And that's probably a couple of months away from being completed. We intend to, and this is probably one of our most significant projects and goals for the year. We'd like to complete planning by the end of the year to create 1 to 3 options for enhancing the Merritt Parkway Trail, where sound and sight attenuation or abatement is a strategic priority. And for any of you who are familiar with that trail, you'll know that you see and you hear the Merritt Parkway a lot. And we hear consistently from park patrons that, can't you do something to give us a little bit of a buffer from the Merritt so we don't feel like it's right on top of us? And the town, to its credit, last year removed an old chain link fence, which Mr. Lapham had actually put in at the time the Merritt was built, that ran along that perimeter. And the fence was rusty, it was falling down in places, it was overgrown, looked terrible. And now that whole area looks a lot cleaner, but you actually do see the Merritt even more. So again, this is going to be a big project. It's probably going to be a project that has to be staggered over a number of years. We're not entirely certain yet exactly what solutions the designers and engineers will recommend to us. But the first stage is to begin planning. So we think we've got a good team in place.
Just a quick question. How does the Merritt construction affect that area? Is there going to be, are they going to pull it back like they have in many other areas? Like further
It's
into the
already
woods?
done.
I think it's,
It's completely done.
yeah, in that area.
It's not to other areas under the state, yeah.
In that area, I believe it's done, but so we are in contact with the Merritt Parkway Conservancy. I expect that we're going to have some discussions with the Department of Transportation. Obviously, John and Tiger are going to be heavily involved in this. We've identified an engineer who's done a lot of work in Central Park and on Olmsted properties, including on sound abatement type of projects. And he will probably act more in an oversight and project management capacity potentially. But then the Merritt Parkway Conservancy has also recommended that we solicit some proposals from a designer, landscape designer that they use. So we're in the process of trying to vet all of these individuals to make sure we've got the right team in place. We hope that that will be done fairly shortly. And then it's a question of, all right, go to work. And we hope that by October or November, we will have some more concrete plans in place. And at that point in time, we can choose, all right, this is the option or direction we want to move in. And then at that point in time, it would start having to be costed out. But with luck, we may be in a position to start some of that work next year. But that's probably going to be a 7-figure project. And again, it doesn't have to all be done in 1 year. Bob Slert, our founder, likes to say, our mission is to make sure Waveney thrives in perpetuity, and perpetuity is a long time. So you don't have to look at every one of these projects and say, it's got to be done tomorrow. So that's one of our big priorities. We'd also like to develop a plan, which may be a subset of the Arbor plan to improve the appearance of the wooded area directly to the right of the courtyard. And as if you're looking at Waveney House, you've got the courtyard, there's sort of a wooded area, and then there's a parking area. If you actually pay attention to that wooded area, it looks pretty scraggly. And especially now that we've done all of the work on the courtyard, it would be nice if we can find some ways to improve the appearance of that. We've had a forestry plan on the books for a number of years, but we've never really done anything about it. And this involves looking for ways to clean up some of the underbrush in the forest that may not be ecologically beneficial, getting rid of some of the invasive vines and other species in the forested areas. That project, again, is one that would likely be carried out over a number of years. And the way the plan is actually laid out, it sort of lays it out into chunks. So it sort of lends itself to a staggered approach, but that's something that we hope to begin work on this year. as well. And then finally, we envision evaluating and ultimately implementing a more robust Art in the Park program. And this may have several elements that we're considering. We're just in the planning stages and kind of evaluation and envisioning stages now. But Charles is going to talk about one element of that, which is sort of what we call functional art. Some people would say art benches to begin with, then possibly envisioning some trail art and maybe even then introducing appropriate organic, instantly attractive and very broad appeal sculpture in some areas of the park. So we're a ways away from having anything concrete on most of those fronts, but we're trying to evaluate how can we begin to think about more robust art programming within the park, because we think the space lends itself to that very well. And so with that, I will essentially turn this over to Charles. Actually, maybe one, we'll turn it over.
Can I ask one question? The arbor plan, I don't know what you mean by working on an arbor. Where is it? Yeah, it's just trees, it's not vines. I think of an arbor as like vines hanging down.
Well, that a lot of the vine stuff is going to be, has already been addressed within the forestry plan. The arbor plan is really going to mostly concentrate, John, correct me if I'm wrong, is mostly concentrate on the more open areas of the park, you know, the meadows and things like that, where you have trees, specimen trees, things of that nature.
And the arbor plan in general is usually about trees.
Okay.
So, but yes, not as much in the woods per se, but more of the specimen trees. There's quite a few
Okay,
specimen
space.
trees there,
Got it.
and where the proper specimen tree can be planted.
Okay. Thank you.
So with that, I will turn this over to Charles, who's going to talk a little bit more about one of the initial ideas that we'd like to implement as a first step in sort of more robust art programming within the park. And so without further ado, Charles.
There it is. Thank you. So this is a program that popped up. It was inspired by Carol Clarkson of the Jenny Foundation. And she originally showed us this photograph, which is a bench she mentioned was from a Scottish sculptor, who she didn't know who it was, but it was carved from one piece of wood. It's not, it's oak tree, not oak wood in that particular instance. And Ariane Cole, who was a great curator of the Getty, and myself did some research on this. And Karen said, gosh, this would be wonderful to have in the genuine. So we did the research. Out of that came this concept of, well, rather than just do one, this is a really interesting new dimension to the park that can enrich current residents' experience of the park and actually can attract new visitors in. And the long and the short is, if you go to the next slide, John, the benchmarks themselves, I said, made by Nigel Ross. I'll go through this very quickly because you may have read it already. They are functional and interactive sculptures. By that I mean is that they are designed to be played on, to be sat on, but they're also designed to kind of intrigue, so I put it to intrigue and attract adults, and ideally to be irresistible to children. So that's very much part of it. But all of these fall in what we call the organic theme. Organic, obviously, because they're made of wood, the designs are simple and organic. And part of the reason for that is that's what we have in the park, is a very, it fits in with our conservation program, but it's also lends itself to very simple designs that appeal to as broad a range of the resident population as possible. It's nothing controversial, these words. I think the 5 primary benefits of foot, they enhance the visitor experience, they attract new visitors, appeal to adults and children. I think this is important. They do, in our own small way, reinforce New Canaan's reputation as a destination for art and architecture. Well, we've got over 100, I think, mid-century modern houses, the Glass House, now obviously Grace Farms, and of course the new library. So it's a small piece, but our thinking behind the whole concept of art in the park is to build on that. what makes these interesting is that it's quite unique in the US. There is no one in the US doing this kind of approach to organic sculptures. So, there's potential from a reputational perspective. And from our point of view, it also opens new sources of funding. Because if you go to the next slide, please, John. Oh, okay, it's designs. These are fairly straightforward. One piece of wood, 12-foot long, half to 3/4 of a ton in weight. They don't need much preparation. They don't need much maintenance. Very simple, straightforward, and very attractive. Ultimately, we hope we might involve some other local artists. We have a couple who have expressed interest, but for simplicity's sake, we're seeking approval for benches from this particular Scottish artist.
They're wonderful.
Next slide, please. These are open for absolute debate, but we have the red dots indicate where we think they would be good to have. The idea ultimately is to have a trail, so it draws people to different areas. It surprises them. The trail up would do the same thing as we evolve that planning. Having said that, we already have, subject obviously to approval, 2 of these benchmarks funded already. One is by Bob Seeland, who was very keen to participate in this. And there it says, our first chairman of Waverley Park Conservancy, there's a nice symmetry to him being the first to help on this new initiative. He has asked that that be at the front of the pond, which was one of the places we suggested anyway. And then the second one has been generously funded by the Genuine Foundation. So that's Carol Clarkson sort of fulfilling her original inspiration, which I like. And that one would be on the north end of, thank you, this one here. Just to put that in perspective, the driveway is up here, right? So this is actually north and that's south.
Yes.
I should probably have flipped it. But honestly, that's up. We have an idea of putting the third one. If you look out from the terrace, and if you drew a line west to Lapham
Yes.
from the terrace, and you continued it on very approximately, there's a little clump of trees there, and there's a sort of odd rock, and it's a turning point as I put it across country. That's another possible place, but honestly, we're spot the choice. Obviously open to all ideas. Next slide. Very important, this is independent of our current funding initiatives. We have, Steve mentioned some major initiatives coming through, particularly this Merritt Parkway. So we're very keen not to cull any funds that would otherwise have gone to Waveney or our other projects. And the beauty of this is because it's falls into the sort of art spectrum, we can go to a whole raft of both government, local government, state, and national, as well as other art foundations to fund us. We've already got a pretty good list of prospects for that. No town funding, so it doesn't cost the town a penny. It costs about $20,000 a bench installed, give or take. And as I say, we already have a couple of these funded already, which was a nice surprise.
What is their life?
So again,
How long do they remain?
it's a very fair question. I mean, my teak table, which is teak, has lasted 25 years and is still going strong. I expect this to last at least 40, 50 years. It requires some maintenance, but minimal. So what he does is he treats it, mostly it's going to be oak, but he treats it with a fungicide to stop beetles and insects. And then he applies an oil finish to a couple of coats of oil finish. So we would every so often, I need to pin him down on what his recommendation is. We would do the same thing, but that's half an hour's work on something like that. So the maintenance is minimal. It lasts for a very long time. Is the answer. And then the last slide is, it just concludes it. Unique in Waverley and UK and the USA, maybe. Simple organic designs that complement the landscape. That's important. We're not trying to, sort of shock or there's nothing untoward here. And I generally think it'll really enrich residents' experience and attract new visitors in what is a spectacular location for this sort of thing. That's it. So any questions? Otherwise, thank you very much.
Love that.
Because
Great
their artwork, you won't put plaques on them, I guess.
So there won't be plaques on them. Bob Seeley, for example, who came up with Steve mentioned the original mission statement about in perpetuity, has asked that we figure out a way of including that. And one of the suggestions I have, this is again, subject, we've got to do a lot more research on this. But if you think of a very simple, you used to draw as a kid, a rectangular house, it had a roof, right? And the roof, you've got to, if you think of that from an angle, you plant that in the ground as a plaque on a rock or something, we could put it beside it or in front of it or somewhere in that area. It would be very attractive, very upscale and unobtrusive. So the last thing we want is to have, a sign on a post with a plaque. So we may or may not have them for each one, but I think for Bob's, given he's done so much for Waverley Park Conservancy, it would be a nice way to thank you.
Tim?
Oh, yeah, thank you for all this work. It sounds amazing. I had a question in general about the outside professionals that you use. Are they known to the town or generally publicly available when they are hired and perform work for the conservancy?
Yes, so before we bring anyone into the park, well, I would say two things. Most of the time, any large scale project is typically contracted through the town. There are times when for specific maintenance work or something like that, we may just say we'll pick up the bill directly, but we always vet those individuals through the town. In most cases, the town has used them for various projects themselves, so they're known entities.
Great, thank you.
On the benchmark, I just think it's fabulous. I was in Sweden, they had somebody had benches, but they had trees in their park, which they had artists kind of do things with these trees. And it was really breathtaking, really wonderful. And it did everything you said. It enriched the visit, it brought in more spectators. It became a destination.
Where was that, Keith? I didn't hear.
In Sweden.
Oh, in Sweden, right.
And it was not mentioned, but these are gorgeous, and I think it's a great idea.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
And actually, if anyone's interested, just pass that on. That's actually Nigel Ross's. It's not all his book, but it's good selection. So you get a better look.
Couple questions for you guys.
Yeah.
Regarding the two benches that have already been donated, do you have a drawing of what you'd like to put in? Any architectural?
So if I may.
Yeah.
So if you go back to
Which
the last
which
slide.
style of bench or you looking to?
So the last slide. So this one, if approved, is what Bob Seeley has chosen.
Okay.
Very simple. The seating area is 18 inches high off the ground. Obviously, the loop up is higher. All these are 18 inches, so it's perfect height from sitting on. So that's the one which, in an ideal world, we would put in first.
Okay.
The pond.
By
The first one, please.
By the pond?
Correct.
Okay.
And if you think of the actual standing there, the absolute perfect location is if you draw a straight line down
Right.
from the path and then at the top, the compass of the path, boom, right there. in front of you.
Right.
And obviously protect it during the winter.
Okay.
Steady. So this one, I haven't talked, this was the one Carol Clarkson originally showed me. So, oh gosh, goodness, I don't have him
That's one.
in the meadow.
One first one you showed us.
Yeah. So it's very simple.
Right.
So
Okay.
If you see one you like, George, you can pick it out as well.
yeah, exactly. Honestly,
Exactly.
it's one reason I don't need to put all these in because
I like the corkscrew one myself.
Right.
it's wonderful. That was the one, one of the ones he exhibited in Hugo.
Okay.
Is exactly that.
So these are the two styles that you would like to run with initially.
Yes,
This one-
I mean, it would be a maximum of 5, but we just, again, this is all subject to approval, but a bit of a bonus is to.
Right. I'm sure, because we have to, the same way we approved that temporary sculpture in the fields, we would have to approve the aesthetics of, I mean, approve the style. If
So it'd be
Oh, yeah,
those
you-
two to start with.
to start with, do you want to wait until next month to get final approval? If you have other side, or do you want some, or you said 5, want approval for 2, do you?
So,
I don't want to
no, I
rush
was
you
using-
guys, I
I
don't
would
want
say
to rush this.
for these two first, and then,
Mhm.
I mean, there are a selection which we were gonna show
Right,
to possible donors. But it's pretty flexible.
Yeah.
If there's some which we just, you can go to absolutely not acceptable. then that's fine.
yeah, that's, yeah. You can do. Yeah, okay. John, are you, John, are there any issues on the part?
Or, no, they're taking care of the whole thing, as far as installation and everything else, we definitely be there for the final location. I agree, the one at the end of the path should be straight down that new path.
Okay,
Because you would see it from up above.
Right.
And then the one that's out
Yeah.
in the meadow. That's got more flexibility.
So the meadow one, there's a perfect site on that north end.
right,
There's a little vernal pond in the front, and then the path rises up, and there's a perfect top of that rise. It just overlooks the meadow. So when the meadow finally comes to fruition, if you like, it'll just be an ideal.
okay.
So I guess we're really seeking approval now for those two.
I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Can we approve these now?
We can do that, if we so choose to do so, these 2 styles, specifically as Charles laid out. For the 2 specific locations, any other benches that you would like to put in, if you can.
So there is a third one in here, which is, and again, what we're trying to do is pick ones which are.
Because I don't want, right, because I don't want to approve something and something different goes in.
That's right.
That could be back.
We completely understand.
Other than, yeah.
There's one that you want to do some looking at for the location.
Right, what, Charles, okay. Good. So the proposal for us, before us tonight, is this style of bench. What we have on the screen and this style right here.
That one and the one in the front, on the first page.
That one, so let's just, and then if you have subsequent proposals, you'll need to come before us and just say, we want to put this bench in at such and such a location.
Okay.
Style bench. So for this, for starters, we can start with these 2 benches, then if there's gonna be a 3rd, 4th, 5th, great. Just come to us when you're ready to do that, we'll put you on the agenda.
No
Okay,
problem at all.
so, is there a motion to accept this?
Motion to accept this to.
2 styles, okay, and their
In the
locations,
2 locations, yeah.
2 styles, 2 locations. We have proposing, is there a second? Second. Keith, thank you. All those in favor, is there a hand? Just opposed?
Gene voted yes too. He's.
Oh, hey, Gene, and.
No, I voted for.
Great, thanks, Gene.
Was it unanimous? I'm sorry.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Thank you.
fantastic work.
Very good.
Yeah,
And just
thank you.
close. So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exciting. That's just what-
So, John, you're next.
Okay.
Oh, don't leave us, Chris. Come on.
It's just getting good. I mean, it's just kicking off.
I was just getting my second one.
I have to run too.
All right,
Thanks, guys.
thanks so much.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Chris.
So I was not hoping that I was hoping that we wouldn't have any snow yesterday. Driving up through Waveney, you can see the grass starting to green up and I have spring fever already, but it came. And we're dealing with it. But with that said, spring's here as far as the Parks Department and the Rec Department is concerned. We're ready to move forward. So little update on the construction at Waveney House, still moving forward. They're working on the bathrooms. You sometimes you stop in, they replace the 3 doors, the 2 out the back and 1 out the western side. With beautiful new doors and automatic openers that are handicap accessible. you might not notice, but the bandstand, as we call it, has been lowered to meet ADA requirements. That's a little carpeted area. If you were coming into the main part of the house to the right, it's still carpeted, but it's now at the right level, so it's handicapped accessible.
Okay.
So. On other notes, tomorrow night is the last of the 3 boards, for the budget. Go in front of the town council for our budgets, and hopefully we'll go well there. They cut me from 45 minutes down to 25 minutes, so I figure that means they don't have a lot of questions, and I think that's a good side. So, on March 25th, I believe, the Saturday, March 25th is a color drop again, so, feel free to come out, feel free to buy golf balls for the Scholarship Foundation, and I will be in the helicopter again dropping golf balls.
All
So
right.
hopefully it's gonna be another beautiful day. So, Steve Dayton has been working on the summer concerts, and we have a list. We're going to seek approval, hopefully on Tuesday through the Board of Selectmen, so we can get those all booked. Pool construction continues, weather permitting. And we're looking to make some changes in our swim team, and there'll be more coming in with that. One thing this year, we're worried about lifeguards. As most everybody in our area had problems with lifeguards, we were very fortunate last year because we had almost everybody returned. This year, we don't have everybody returned. So if you know anybody that would like to become a lifeguard, it's a great place to work. Steve's a great guy, and we'd appreciate it. So.
They have to be what age?
15 and a half.
15 and a half.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
So, yeah. We'd like to get them young too, because then hopefully they'll come back all through college, except for that 1 year they need to do the internship. So, we're, with the construction going on, we're still hoping that we're gonna be able to open on time, but we're gonna be close. There's a lot of work that's being performed and it's going well, but it's still, it's just gonna be close. George and I just finished a fireworks committee meeting, and just so everybody knows, fireworks this year, the first date is July 1st with a rain date of the 2nd. And if for some reason that whole weekend doesn't work, then they'd be Saturday, the 8th. And that would be it. So with that, I'm gonna let Zach Philippus, the new Assistant Recreation Director, talk a little bit about recreation.
All right.
Yeah, so a quick update on our end. We are in the process of getting our summer stuff rolling out. The reason why we're a little bit later this year is we're updating our recreation software, which we're very excited about. So we're gonna get a new website, it's gonna be very user friendly. That'll be rolling out in mid-April. So right now, the staff is going through all the training and everything with that, which is great. Kind of just to feed off what Margaret said as well, we're very excited about swim lessons. Steve, John, myself, we've been talking about it, and we're like, oh, we gotta build a spot. So being able to get a reputable place like YMCA, who does the job great and excellent, to be able to come in with us and be able to utilize Steve Ankle Pool, it's a home run for both sides. So we're very excited about that. Our summer camp this year, we are going to be making some changes, which is good changes. Last year we limited it to 60 kids, so we'll take a little bit of a bump this year. We'll do 100 kids. And what we're incorporating is a different model, kind of like what the YMCA does. They're doing 3 2-week models. What we're incorporating is special events, field trips. So we'll have different events going on, whether it's like we have like the mobile Great Ninja course coming in. Kids will be able to do that. We got like a laser tag company coming in, so they set up all the laser tag and everything for the kids. We got numerous special events and field trips, and we did release that calendar to the public, and we got some positive feedback. So they're excited, kind of giving us some calls when you guys go to registration and stuff like that, which is great. And then finally with that, once we get the recreation software settled, we're looking into doing some intergenerational programs with LAPM over here. So we've been in talks with Aggie as well. That's kind of in the works too.
Can you manage going from 60 to 100? That's a big
Yeah.
jump
Huge
Wow.
jump.
in terms of staffing and some. Okay.
He offered, he's going to.
And
That's a significant.
I used to do 350 in my
We
previous.
used to have one.
Yeah, we were closer to
Make over games. So we had to
Yeah.
run it.
Okay.
And what's nice is we started the application process, which is great, and we have like 6 people who applied for the director spot. We have more 15 staff members for council that applied, so we'll do some interviews. So we do have the pool there right now, which is great, which is
Okay.
good and promising. Yep.
Gotcha.
And this is going from when to when?
This is going from June 19th through July 29th. No, No.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the last week of July, yep, so
Right.
it's a 6-week camp, yep. It'll be 8:30 to 2:30, the camp.
70 hours back to going longer instead of
Yep.
ending basically at noontime.
Yep,
Right.
That'd
and
be good.
we're gonna be able to utilize Steve Banko pool as well for swimming, which is great.
Great.
We're right here at Waveney, so might as well be able to utilize it, which is great. So we'll be able to do that with the kids, which we're excited about.
Excellent, okay, thank you. Any questions for,
I have one, it's for John, it's a simplistic question. Of all the dates you mentioned, you can't celebrate July 4th and July 4th?
The committee was unanimous on picking the weekend date, the Saturday day. It was positively received. So I'm actually not on the committee, so you can't blame me.
It's just like,
Yeah.
you know what the rationale is? Just they want to have it on a weekend
Yes,
and not celebrate Independence Day on Independence Day.
that's correct.
part of it also, I mean, I'm not, well, I serve an ex officio capacity. Many times we've had rain, okay, and if it rains one day and the fields are wet, okay, you don't necessarily can use it the second day, so that's why you really have the original date, a backup date, and then.
Yeah, but none of those were the 4th.
Exactly. The problem being is the 4th this year falls on a Tuesday. A lot of people might be away on vacation. It's tricky. You're not gonna get.
You're not trying to, I mean, I'm just, here, I thought maybe it was a money saving thing that, Darien can afford to have it on the 4th.
No,
And
it's
those
just,
are the
it's not that. Part of what happens to you, you could never do the 4th and then the 5th. The guys that launch fireworks are part-time employees for the companies.
Yeah.
So they gotta go to their day job on the 5th or whatever. So they have a very limited time. So if we pick the 4th as our main day, our next rain date would probably be Saturday, the 8th. And that's where you run into it. So that's part of the thought process. It wasn't, not last year, I think the year before. We just never were able to get them off. We even tried to do it in August, and it was just one problem after another. So. I know. You're not alone, but you're unfortunately for you, the minority.
Well, I have a question, what's happening with the playground? At Waveney?
I have not heard a word, and I meant to follow up today since your email asking when the committee was going to meet. We have not had a meeting after
Okay.
that one.
All right, so
Where
that
many
is
people didn't
tabled
go.
right now,
Well, it's not. We want to keep moving forward. We really think it needs to be done.
yeah,
So we need to get going.
and, are the courts at Mead Park? Is the trajectory to have them open the end of April?
Yes, we have hired the same company again with the bonus to have them opened early. The one thing that we will do this year, which I feel we opened about a week too early last year. The courts were done. We didn't spend enough time rolling them and really firming them up before we opened them. And part of that gave us problems throughout the year with the
Okay.
tapes moving and stuff like that.
Yes.
So we're gonna spend just a little bit more time before we open, making sure that they're in great shape. But yes, we're planning, we're not,
So
we're
April-
scheduled to open early. The contractor knows they can receive a bonus. If they get them open, don't ask me the exact date offhand, but they know that they're planning on it. And we'll be good to go.
Okay, thank you, John.
Any other questions for John or any of his great staff?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, a lot of things going on and what, and sure, so, just in terms of my report, next meeting is on Wednesday, April 12th. I will not physically be here, but I'm gonna try to chair this from Zoom if I can. If I can, I may so say, hey, Francesca, can you take over and just be more of a participant at that point. So I'll try to do that. I know that could be a little tricky. We'll see what the agenda is like. So in any case, no further business to conclude. Betty?
Public comments, please. Public comments?
Well, what would you like to say?
Go ahead, Betty.
I can't come to a meeting without making public comments. Betty Lavastik, Old Norwood Road. I enjoyed this meeting very, very much. George knows, and Keith, and whoever else is here from the Exchange Club. I have been the eyes and ears and the volunteer watchdog of Quan's Park for the past 25 years. And it's not only the Exchange Club, it's a 365-day a year job for me, excluding my vacation. I watched the WISE operation, your shed. I reported to Davy, I reported to the police, so I know what's going on down there. I walk the rounds of Kiwanis Park almost every single day, every day during the summer. In addition, I keep my eyes on the Mary B cabin, so they know things that are going on. The key to this is the vandalism doesn't always occur at night. And this is the issue. I think the police are aware of it. And so when I see groups of children coming down during the day, they could be legitimate in the park. I've seen them after dinner, and I sort of know who belongs in the park and who doesn't. And so when I see something suspicious and somebody breaks into the Mary B at 1:20 in the afternoon, that's something that is hard to tell in a park, because in a park, that age group, they could be playing in the backyard, they could be playing in the backfield, they could be playing on the beach. So the vandalism doesn't always occur in the evening, and the Exchange Club knows stories that I've mentioned to them along the way. My family, including my son Jordan Sabone, has sanded those benches down there for the past 5 years and painted them for the Y. So we're involved, we're hands-on. I know the Y doesn't know, some people do, Davey knows, Steve Banko used to know. Back to the Y, drop-off isn't as much of an issue as pickup. I've watched the operation for 25 years. What has happened recently, our parents are parking in the handicap parking places. They've been parking underneath the Moreno tree, and it's very chaotic. I'm willing to work with the Y to come up with ideas, because I've seen it in the late 1990s and in the 2000s, where the pickup goes very, very quickly. And what I've noticed is the campers are all the way in the back by the apartment, and they wait there. So the lot fills up, people are walking, walkers are coming down, and residents are going to the beach. So it gets crazy, and I think that whole operation, the pickup part, is a little bit more, I don't know, time consuming and congested than in the morning. The morning seems to go very quick, in my opinion. So they've done a great job. I enjoy working with Matt. You know, I'm in touch with him also on that. They've done a great job there, but the pickup is an issue.
Thank you for your comments.
And there's a new head of the camp.
Sorry?
Becky. There's a new head of the camp.
Matt's not there?
Matt is still with us, but he has a different position now, and our new camp director is Bill Prout.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah, very
I'm
excited.
forward to seeing that.
Hopefully the lines that John referenced earlier in the meeting will help.
It will help. And speaking with Davey, she's aware of the people in the
Yeah.
handicap spot. And she's been dealing with it, and during last year, it got better as far as people parking in the handicap
Right.
spots.
Okay,
But it's not perfect.
gotcha. Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, if there's no further business, Francesca,
Motion to adjourn.
motion to, is there a second? Thanks, Doug. Those in favor? Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you. Exactly.